A lot of speculation about whether the SEC is just posturing, saying, you guys need to get your act together, or we're going to do our own thing, or if there's any meat to it. Beyond that, we saw the Pac-12. Actually, I applauded the Pac-12 for actually taking a little leadership and saying we're going to disband divisions and go to a 1-2 format for our championship game. The other conferences are considering that. I've run the metrics on what that would have looked like in the SEC. About half the time it would have changed the championship game in its 30-year history. Then we also have scheduling considerations that need to be made once Oklahoma and Texas join, and it's supposed to be 2025. Can't imagine that they're going to play 3 more lame duck seasons in the Big 12, but we'll see how that plays out. What would you like to see? What do you think makes best sense for Florida football going through all those various situations and formats?
Well, with Florida and the SEC, I think pods make the most sense, but it sounds like that's not going to be the direction the SEC goes when you start looking at what's happening at these SEC meetings in Destin right now. So does it sound like pods are going to be the way to go? They don't want divisions either, so I don't know what that really leaves, Mark. If you just it's just throw the teams all in one and you take the top 2, I guess that's what it comes. But how do you determine your permanent? How do you determine your rotation of who you play year after 1 year and then the next year? Mark, I don't know. There's so many things thrown out there right now. I'd like pods. I'd like it where you probably have your 3 permanents, and then you rotate to where you play all the other teams every other year. So each school, each player gets to go to an opposing team stadium, or at least see an opposing team one time in their career. I mean, it was Florida played Alabama last year, Mark, and it was the first time in 10 years Alabama had been in the swamp. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever with the way the SEC and other conferences out there format their schedules. So we do want to see
where the ACC is going now. They're going to 3-5-5. So
yep. So I definitely want to see that, where we get more rotation, get to see, Auburn and LSU and Texas A&M, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Well, I mean, I'm saying that because that's the SEC West right now, but we don't get to see those teams a whole lot. So maybe in the future we do get to see those teams in the swamp a whole lot more. So, Mark, I think you have to go to where you are at least playing more than 8 conference games. I think it's a joke that the SEC plays 8 conference games right now. I want more. I want a harder schedule. I want bigger games. I don't like the cupcake games. If people listen to me throughout the years, I'm not a big fan of the cupcake games. They get pretty boring. Look, they've been needed in the past, and they may be needed now more than ever, because I think the way college football is moving now, Mark, you do have a have and have-nots. And if you start separating these halves even more, where the halves are only playing each other, what happened to the have-nots? They rely on those checks. They rely on those go get your brains beat in type of games. I don't know what happens to those teams in college football. So as much as I don't like cupcakes, I get their existence in college football. It helps those smaller schools out. But Mark, we may just start seeing, an even more separation of the have and have-nots. And in the SEC, I know that's kind of a sticking point as well. What's fair for Alabama is not necessarily fair for Vanderbilt. So I think there's a lot of these schools that need to look at themselves as well to figure out where they want to be in the future of college football. Because it's not an easy answer right now. Martin, and going back to the SEC playoff thing, I don't buy it right now. I think it is kind of posturing. I won't necessarily throw it away. I do think if Greg Sankey doesn't like what he hears in the coming weeks, months, and years, that he'll file that away. It'll always be there. But I don't think it's an immediate answer to anything right now for the SEC.